Awesome. I just want to make sure. Good afternoon, everybody. Me and Laura just joining. We're just making sure that we got everyone. I'm just going to make her a co-host alongside myself.
Awesome. This is cool. I've seen people pop in. That's kind of fun.
Yeah,
Love it.
I know. Yeah, we're getting them all joining now, so which is great. Just making sure that we got the recording as well, because we'll need that.
Us once again for some cool virtual training that Matthew Krozek from XELLO has put together for us. I really appreciate you doing this for us, Matt. And you guys don't see it, but behind the scenes, he's working hard to be creative and figure out ways to make these engaging, even though we can't be in person for these different kinds of trainings. He's trying to be very creative. So hopefully it will all go very well and you guys will appreciate some of the creativity he's put into this particular session. So today we're going to be talking about using XELLO to do lessons in classrooms and or at home, depending on where we are, and also in creating custom lessons. So the new updated XELLO has a lot of opportunity for educators to use XELLO in their classroom to teach around some of the assessments and some of the curriculum with the career profiles. And in addition, it's made, there's some flexibility now where you can actually make your own lessons for your own classroom. You can put in requirements for things for them to do and kind of like, you know, their prerequisites for them to be able to actually even engage in the lesson. So some really neat tools in the system. So I will, with that, let Matt show you what we got.
Awesome. Thanks, Laura. Totally appreciate it. So good afternoon, everyone. As Laura said, we're going to be going through lessons, creating custom lessons, taking a look at lesson progress, especially with utilizing the new student dashboard. So I'm just going to jump into our agenda for today. So we're going to have a look quickly at XELLO's lessons, what's available. We're going to take a look at the student lesson experience on the student side so we can kind of get an idea of what they're experiencing now with the new dashboard changing, how to create a custom lesson and what that would look like and how to add a prerequisite to that, the new student dashboard, and just really getting you familiar with it so you're able to use and understand what students are seeing and what they can do with it. Best practices on reporting on lessons and custom lessons on the educator side, so get a glimpse into that and how we can do that. Just quickly talking about additional resources and of course our workshop at the end. Just a quick housekeeping component is if you have questions throughout, feel free to use the question pane within Zoom. This session's being recorded right now, so it'll be available on my YouTube channel following the session. So look out for that. But yeah, let's get started.
One other housekeeping thing just to add, remember that you will be asked at the end to fill out a survey, and that will be how we'll record your sketches. This is worth one career sketch, and so we will be definitely recording those. And we will also be getting links from Matt to his YouTube channel and housing it probably on our LCAN website so that we can give it to you for easy, quick reference.
Awesome. Thanks, Laura. Those are all the things I forgot. That's perfect. Thank you. So just to get back right into the session, so what are lessons? So within XELLO, we've designed grade-specific lessons just to really give students an introduction to some really great topics, be it 21st century learning, social emotional skills, and really just really expanding on what their knowledge is and giving them that great baseline. Of course, all these lessons were designed and researched in-house with the help of educators, our demo students that we have actually internally that we use a lot of our program on, so we can kind of get an idea of how things work. Of course, we want to make sure we build on those social emotional competencies. So even as we've developed new lessons, we've made sure that that's the forefront of everything that we're doing. We're trying to make sure that they're as interactive as possible. So those who are familiar with them would know that there's, not just true and false, but then it also pulls in results from students' EDP portfolio. They're able to reflect on it. There's also multiple choice. There's videos in some of the lessons. So really interactive, making sure that we put them at the forefront. And then really giving the ability to connect all those pieces together, right? Making connections to real world learning, right? Be in other classroom settings, other subject matters. For example, just some of the lessons we have, there's one on entrepreneurial studies, which is for business. So again, making those connections between careers and school subjects. So really great content that we have built. Of course, they're interactive, they're personalized, right? So we want to make sure that we can track anything that students are doing. So with those prerequisites that we've built in, students are able to see their progress. You as educators are able to see their progress. There's lots of different types of interaction throughout the platform, including the ability to customize some of those sections. So within a lesson itself, as students save, careers, majors, schools, skills, interests, all of those get pulled into lessons based on the topic. And also what's great is that there are new topics for every grade. So we do have 4 lessons per grade level, allowing students really to take a deeper dive into XELLO, but then really also making sure that they have fresh new content each year as they're going through the platform. So some topics you can see here, some really neat ones: transition to high school for those 8th grade students, career demand, so getting an understanding of what career demand is, how it works, discovering learning pathways, so career clusters and pathways, time management on the social emotional side, right? Understanding that there's, a need to be able to break off time from work and personal, to be a self-advocate. Entrepreneurship, obviously very important, especially in this day and age. Decision making, defining success, exploring career matches, and of course, personality style. And this is just to name a few that we have. Of course, I love these transitions I have within this within this presentation today too. But of course, prerequisites. These are really, really important. So not only have we made sure that you can create custom lessons, but you also can create custom assignments. So a lot of times we have educators who ask in different subject matters, how can they get involved in XELLO and what can they use within the platform? So even as much as for the example on screen with a science teacher, they can easily create an assignment just for their specific group and assign it to a student. It's really, really neat, right? Taking what we have and going above and beyond even our lesson structure. And obviously this functionality exists alongside custom lessons. At this point, I just want to make sure to see if there's any questions, because I do want to take a dive into the differences between a custom lesson and an assignment. I'm just going to take a look quickly to see if there are any questions, if my computer would cooperate. At
I
this
don't see
point, I
any yet.
don't see any. Nope. Okay. So just to give you some insight into what the differences are. So a custom lesson can be created by administrator, and that lesson master sits with at the school level. So schools can create their lessons. They're assigned to an entire grade, right? So this wouldn't be a specific group of students, but the entire grade level. There's no due date. So that due date is really the end of the school year. Lessons are completed and the results reviewed in that lesson progress section in the report. So just in a separate area. Can be set inactive or deleted. So those custom lessons can be. On the assignment side, a little different. They can be created by all educators at any school. So even right now, if it doesn't matter what level of access you have, you can create an assignment. You can assign it to a specific group or grade level. So making it very trackable, tangible. You can make sure that only a specific set of group of students have this assignment. So maybe you've just done something in class. You want to make sure that you capture them within this assignment. You can definitely do that. They have a due date, so you can assign a due date if you'd like, right? So you could make that into the future, but a lot different than that custom lesson where it can be at, like I said, at the end of the year. Assignment completion results are reviewed under the assignment section. So we have added a new report for that in the report section, and assignments can be archived. So it's another major difference between the two. typically at this point we usually have questions, but I think Laura even has a good example that she wanted
Yeah,
to.
I was just going to give some examples of what we might be seeing for our particular county for custom lessons and assignments. So custom lessons, as Matt said, you do need to be at the administrator level within XELLO. That doesn't mean that you are particularly an administrator. It's your
Right.
level of access. So an example of the custom lessons could come from we are right now in Livingston working on putting together an EDP task force, and that was created by your curriculum directors in your districts, and they've got representatives from your district, like your career readiness people, your main implementer of XELLO, maybe one of the counselors, as well as administrators on this team. They're going to be working on trying to figure out what that talent portfolio is supposed to look like in the Michigan career development model, and may decide to create a custom lesson where the talent portfolio is started. So maybe they'll decide that they want to start the talent portfolio in 7th grade. So there'll be a custom lesson that says, here's the beginning of your talent portfolio. Please complete these objectives and have that completed, as a part of the 7th grade mandatory lessons. On the flip side, we had a question actually on Tuesday's training from a business teacher that was actually really fitting for this example. She had asked if she could actually create assignments for her students that would be mandatory to be done. This is where, under the assignments category, is where she would do that. So she would create an assignment for her business class, and the students would need to complete it as a part of her curriculum, but it wouldn't go to all students in that grade level, but she could actually name the students, right, Matt? She could name the students
Correct.
that she would assign it to that were all the students in her business class, and they might be of various grade levels. So that's the difference between those two. Hopefully that will clarify that.
No, that's a great example. So assignments really work hand in hand with lessons. They really supplement what current lessons we have or any custom lessons that are created. Think as lessons being the mandatory type activities an entire grade level would do, where an assignment would be something you'd supplement those with. So again, I think Laura's example goes hand in hand with what I just said, but just to clarify further on that. Again, we want to just make sure. I don't think there's any questions at this point. And nope, no problem. We'll continue on. So just some rules around this and how this works. Really what you need to know and why this is important. Again, those administrators in those buildings can create custom lessons. That's really what you want to take away from this. That lesson master does sit at the school level. So right now schools can create those lessons. So it really is helpful because if you have things you want to track, be it assessment completion, for example, matchmaker, personality styles, mission complete, learning styles as examples, you could go ahead and create those to be able to track them. So it gives you all that reporting capability as well. So it makes this really, really easy to use, but then also gives you a lot of power, right, in terms of what is expected within your buildings. So why should we create custom lessons? Well, first and foremost, going beyond the requirements, right? We want to make sure that XELLO does have great content within it, right? We have 4 lessons per grade, but there are things that we want students to do above that. So how do we do that? That's where a custom lesson comes in to make sure that we're going and meeting those mandated requirements. Is in Michigan with your EDP mandate, that is so important that we're capturing things like skills, interests. Laura touched on a talent portfolio, right? So experiences, all of those need to be captured as part of an EDP as well. So those things need to be part of it. We want to obviously deliver this content, right, that is ensuring consistency across the board, right? So every student in every grade, right, would be doing the same work. And it's all built into the platform. So there's no guessing, right, what needs to be done. Students know, educators know, and it becomes pretty clear and evident. You can track lesson completion as well. So it's built in right into Zello. So when you create a custom lesson, it actually becomes part of the lesson report, which is neat. So it is interactive and it will pull on whatever lessons are active and on. So that way you can pull progress reports for all of them. And then also being able to add activities as a prerequisite. So we're going to take a look a little bit about that later when we get into the educator side and how you can create a custom lesson and add prerequisites. We have several, for example, being able to add matchmaker or any of the assessments, having students save a specific, certain amount of skills or certain amount of interests, even down to having them complete part of their 4-year plan. So maybe they need to complete the next year's course selection in order to complete that custom lesson. So some really neat things you can do with it. And we're continuously adding to those prerequisites as well. So just to give you an idea of how that could work. So in the educator side, within the feature section, you have lessons. There you can create a lesson. You'll see that button there. So that really gives you that accessibility into creating a custom lesson. Within that lesson, there's a template to fill out. So you'll be able to set up to 5 different prerequisite activities that they'll need to complete before they can finish the reflection piece of a lesson. Once they go ahead and start that, they're able to save that. If they were to leave that lesson, because there's a text box now available for them to fill out, if they're to leave that section, it saves any of their work, even without clicking the button save. It'll actually save any of that information in that text box, and any of their answers will be kept there. On the student side, they'll be able to see all the lessons to complete within that new student dashboard. Those prerequisites will need to be completed beforehand, so that therefore ensuring that they're done. Once those prerequisites are complete, again, they can go into that lesson to see the reflection piece that you had assigned to them for them to do. Once they've either uploaded or completed the text box, they can submit it. They can also unsubmit if maybe they decide to make a quick change, or they uploaded the wrong file, or maybe they notice a spelling error. They can go ahead and just unsubmit it, but then resubmit it right away. You have accessibility to all of this as well to see if a student had submitted it, who's still left pending to complete it. Really just wanted to make this flexible for students, because we realize as you complete work, sometimes there are mistakes along the way. We try to make this as easy as possible for the educator and student. I did see that there was a question, and Laura, I don't know if you got a chance to answer that.
Nope, I think it was just me telling you that I think we're good with this, because probably a lot of the people that are in here will not necessarily use the custom lesson piece.
Okay.
So just for sake of time, let's keep
Yeah.
going.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. So just some things to keep in mind, right? So obviously this is something to keep students moving forward. So there's access to reports showing lesson progress for students and what they've completed at each grade. So I think that's great, just like we do for our current lesson structure. We want you to be able to create conversations with them. So being able to follow up with groups using the send message function within the student list. This is your ability to communicate with students throughout the platform, making sure that they're completing these lessons. If they've maybe missed something along the way, you can send students a message to be able to keep on top of it.
So Matt, with that feature,
Yep.
if let's say, for example, we have a lesson or a custom assignment created by a teacher, and there's 5 kids that haven't completed it, could that teacher then reach out to the students through the send message function to say, hey, I see you haven't completed, do you need any help, etc.?
100%. That's exactly what you can do. So you can identify who hasn't finished it versus who has, and just target those who haven't. And you could actually select what students you want to send this to. You could even send it to all students, regardless of if they've completed it or not. So it's really up to you and how you do that. But great point, because I think that's important to note, that you do have flexibility in who you can send this message to and when. You're able to take a look at student submissions. So anything that a student has submitted, you're able to review it. You're also able to provide feedback at that point. So, if a student had done a great job, you can send them a quick note on that submission, let them know. You can mark it as reviewed too. So when you're reporting, you can see what you've gone through and marked and completed. So it makes it just like any other platform you've probably used for students and marking their assignments and lessons. And just like I'd mentioned, I think I jumped a bit ahead there, but with being able to mark them as reviewed, I think that's helpful, again, giving you an idea of what you've completed, what you've looked at, and that way you know what else you have to do in terms of your groups of students.
And in terms of our EDP requirements that are out there, one of the requirements is that we do review the EDP.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be a component built in just as a good record keeping for counselors saying, okay, yep, our counselors or the EDP implementer at that school could say, yep, I looked at all of my freshman EDPs this year, and so
Yep.
we're going to check that box.
Exactly, because you really do need that piece, right, to be able to say, you know what, I am physically making sure these are done. I know for a fact that they have been completed, and that's one great way of tracking it. Also with feedback, right? If we really want students to take this to the next level, they'll need feedback. So I highly recommend sending, or even really simple feedback to give students an idea if they're on the right track, especially when you're creating custom lessons with multiple requirements, that it's something that they need to know how well they're doing, and really to improve on what they're submitting to you as well.
Also, in the instance of potentially working virtually with students, the feedback button could be very
Yes,
useful as well.
highly. Oh, for sure. I think it'd be one of the more useful things within it. And just quickly, just to talk about custom lesson reviewing. So obviously you can review the progress of custom lessons. We'll take a bit of a deeper dive into that in the session itself. Again, messaging students, we want you to use that send message function to be able to get a hold of them, to make sure that they're completing these tasks, especially with custom lessons and lessons themselves, because they do have the entire grade level to complete that. So just keeping, tangible timelines in front of them is helpful. Giving you the ability to explore those submissions and give feedback. You're able to see just that student's submission as well as all the other students that have put in anything at that point. It's great too because you're able to see their entire EDP portfolio at that point as well. And then again, marking those as reviewed, again, giving you that go ahead to say, yes, I've actually completed this. I'm now able to move on. So just really giving you that in a highlight reel there. At this point, we are going to jump into the platform just so I can talk to you a little bit more about lessons and show you a little bit more around how this is going to work. I'm just going to log in again quickly because of course it logged me out. So just like as we did in the last session, so on your educator dashboard, you have access to demo students here on the right. Depending on what building you're in, you may have access to other grade levels other than high school. You may have access to the middle school or high school grade levels. It also is dependent by your building and what kind of building you are in. For today's demonstration, I'm going in as a 10th grade student. So you'd simply select a grade level and then you click view as a student. This now takes you in as that student. So now you'll see that I'm in my demo student account. And here we're back onto the new student dashboard that was just released. So just scrolling through it, just want you to take a look at what's here. So again, you can see we have our core lessons. So what things I'll need to complete. To the right, we have About Me, right, which has all the assessments that are listed below. In the Explore Options side, students can explore options just like they had in the past. And then of course, we have Goals and Plans, which includes My Plans and Course Planner. Below that, we have assignments. So again, you can add any assignments to this section and they're highlighted to students, and then links and resources below that. Of course, our aim of the game today is looking at lessons specifically. So right now I'm going to jump into the work values lesson that I've progressed through just to give you a little bit of a feel of what some of these lessons are. This is an existing lesson within XELLO. Just like I'd said earlier, we have 4 lessons per grade. This is one of the lessons that's pre-assigned to 10th grade. Just want to give you just a bit of a look and feel into what it is. So I'm going to jump in at this point. You can see I'm about 88% of the way there. So here, just jumping into where I left off, you'll see that I'll have to choose 2 values that best align with this career as an artist. So here I'm going to jump in and add in my different portions I think are important to being an artist. So as I do, you see that highlights. So now I know I can move on, and the blue highlight reel shows up so I can go to the next question. And Laura, I don't know if you wanted to say something at that point. I just heard.
Oh, I'm sorry. No.
Okay, no problem. No problem. Just wanted to be sure about that. Just going through to the next section, I'll click next to continue on. So now I will be choosing 2 values that best align with the career as professional athlete. So I believe it's competition that's here. I think it's self-improvement, I believe, right? So once I do select those 2 answers, you'll see that now I'm at 90%. It's letting me know that I have selected the 2 correct answers and I can move on. Of course, the next set of values that I'll have is for an obstetrician gynecologist. So here, I have a feeling that of these, it's probably helping others. And I believe it's either, I'm gonna say it's routine. Oh, I guess it might be flexibility. Oh, I'm wrong, so it's security. So it's just good to see what some of the work values are that we've picked for these careers as well. And I think sometimes even you could see with my own bias, thinking what they could be, selecting the wrong answer in some cases because you thought you might know what those answers are. It's really great to kind of open your mind to this. So that's where these lessons really come in handy. I'm just going to click next to go to the next section. And I do think at this point we do have a question. Just want to see what that question is. So Leslie had asked that she said she's not an administrator, but I see student progress of the school required lessons. Is that correct? Yes. Currently, probably for the most part, you're going to see lessons that are pre-made, the ones that we have. So you're going to be able to see student lesson progress at your buildings. If you had custom lessons, you'd obviously be able to see those as well. But for now, you'll probably just see the progress that's there for what we have in XELLO.
And Leslie, just another response to your question. I'm imagining that you're seeing some lessons that might be valuable in your classroom. And as a teacher, that could be an extremely valuable partnership between yourself and the counselors, is to say, hey, this lesson would be appropriate in my classroom, and identifying that for your counselors so that they can see places that maybe, because as was mentioned in the previous webinar, the timing of how to fit the lessons in is always a challenge. So identifying ones that would be fitting in your classroom would be really helpful.
Definitely. So just continue to move on. So again, we're going to choose 2 values that best align with the career principle. So again, we have flexibility, adventure, risks, power, status, and knowledge. I believe it's going to be flexibility, and I was wrong. So adventure and risks, I guess it's power and status, and knowledge are the 2. So again, just getting insight into what it would be like to be a principal and just some of the values that are aligned with that. Here we'll be looking at 2 values aligned with firefighter. So below we have independence, teamwork, recognition, and routine. I'm going to say it's teamwork and recognition are the 2 values there, and you can see that those are correct. So we'll click next. The next career we have is stunt person. So we're almost all the way there to be complete. So under stunt person, we have adventure, risk, routine, wealth, and challenges. For this one, I think it might be a bit more obvious. I think it's adventure and risk and wealth. Oh, not wealth, okay. It might be challenges then. Again, pretty neat to be able to see that. Just different cool careers that are within XELLO that students can take a look at. Here at the last part of this work values lesson, we'll see that we're just shown, just that last part that we went through and looking at some of the values that each of these careers have. Again, just kind of looking across the board, there's some really interesting careers here on the left and just some of the values that they have. So once we click next, you'll see that we've completed this lesson. It's congratulating us that we've finished the work values lesson. Here it gives us just a bit more insight into what work values are and just really hitting home the connections between work values and careers. At this point, we click done, and now this has been completed. So you'll see now that it will show up here on my list as completed, and now our progress has been updated. So now we're 25% of the way done. For most educators, I know you're probably used to seeing this progress bar and having students complete 100%. You'll be very used to seeing that. I think this is something you'll definitely take part in, and I know you'll want to see as part of a student dashboard. So I think this will be really helpful in getting and making sure that students are completing everything they need to. What I want to jump into next is some of the custom lessons I've created. So here on screen, you'll see that I have Matchmaker, Personality Styles, Mission Complete, and Learning Styles. What's neat again on these is that now I can collect completion stats on these, as well as I can make sure that students are reflecting on these assessments. They're not just taking them for the sake of taking them. So as you can see here, this first one we have is Matchmaker. In order for me to go into it, I would just click Get Started. So as you can see here, I've set the prerequisite to be complete Matchmaker. So because I haven't completed it, I have to go do that first. So thus ensuring that students are doing these required tasks first, and you can again assign what the prerequisite is. Of course, in this case, I called it Matchmaker. I made the prerequisite Matchmaker, making it really, really easy for you as an educator to see. A student will definitely understand what this is all about. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go and finish our Matchmaker just so that we can go back and now finish the reflection. So I'm going to click Start Quiz. And at this point, it's going to take me into Matchmaker at this point just so I can complete it. So I'm going ahead and launch Matchmaker. And just for demonstration purposes, we won't be going through the questions. I will be going through them quickly, sorry, just so I can show you how this works. But again, taking a student through in the assessment, what this first question is what they like to do after high school. I'm going to select more school or training and maintain that one. I'm going to click Start Matchmaker, and we're going to go into the assessment itself. You can see here I have 38 of the 39 questions to complete. So I'm almost done. So we're going to go and finish this. So Matchmaker, the assessment's asking me, how do I feel about driving vehicles? I'm going to say I don't like that very much. At this point, we've now completed Matchmaker, right? So now when I click Done, I'll be taken back to that custom lesson. But if I wanted to, let's just say I wanted to keep going, I could continue on with the assessments, continuing on the next phases as well. So I'm going to...
Matt, we're at about a half an hour in now.
Yep, no problem. Thank you so much for the time check. Thank you. Just quickly want to go in and show you what this looks like. So we'll click Done. And at this point, you're going to see that now we're back into that custom lesson. It's been unlocked. At this point, we haven't submitted anything. So we have not submitted a completed result yet. So even though I've finished my Matchmaker, this custom lesson is not complete. So if I were to just go out and click Done, you'll see that this is still not complete. So even though I have Matchmaker done, still not done, I have to go back in and finish the reflection that my educator has added in here. So here I've put in just some information that I wanted the student to do. So I wanted them to go to click on About Me. I wanted them to take one of the suggested careers that was in their Matchmaker, click Find Out Why, which is right beside the Save button, and then give me some more information about what the results are. So the career that they chose, what are some of the central aspects of that career, what are the central and secondary aspects, to which they answered like or not, or like very much, and then to what answers they said dislike or dislike very much. So at this point, they can go ahead and answer this right here in this text box below, or they can attach a file. And in this case, for demonstration purposes, I am going to attach a file with my completed answers to these questions. So I'm going to click to attach a file. I'm going to choose a local file here. And I am just going to choose just a random one just for the sake of it. So we have my Matchmaker result there. I'm going to click Add. And at this point, you'll see that I've added an attachment to this. So in order for a student to show completion, they either have to complete this text box, they have to put an answer within there, or they have to upload a document. Either or they're able to do. It's really up to you what you decide to do. But in this case, in their instructions, I said specifically to please upload. At this point, we will turn this in. So you can see here at the top, it says done, your lesson has been submitted. And just like I had mentioned early on through the session, that a student could unsubmit if they're looking at maybe taking, taking that attachment back and maybe editing it before submitting it. At this point,
Matt,
yep.
I was going to say there's a couple of really neat things that come up with creating a lesson like this. Again, in respect to the aspect of time, I know a lot of times counselors will be in classrooms trying to do the matchmaker activity, but feel that they don't have enough time to get through all of the students answering the questions, kind of setting the stage, and then the processing afterwards. If counselors are able to partner with teachers as having this be a required assignment in their classroom that they come in, then they can set this up with the processing pieces that may not be able to get finished within the hour that they have of time with students.
Definitely.
In addition, the adding the attachments will really serve well as we start to build talent portfolios. Because if there are questions in the talent portfolio about providing evidence, like of different accomplishments they've made, of their resume, of different things that we decide will go in the talent portfolio, this is a great way to allow students to put together that in XELLO.
Yes, definitely. And I think you touched on a good point too. Just want to quickly highlight is that also, students could do this on their own time at home, right? You could have them complete the assessment in a classroom setting, take this home as homework as long as they have access to the internet and complete these questions on their own time, right? And just make sure that they're submitted as part of completing that task for the day. I think that's another way to make sure that this gets done. At this point, I will just click done here at the top. And now you'll see that that has been completed. So Matchmaker has been done. So now as an educator, I can actually say I know that a student has completed this assessment. They have reflected on it. And also now it's contributing towards their completion stats. So we know that we need to get them to 100% this year. Right now we're at 38%. So now I know right away I have to get to the next assessment. I have to get to personality styles, which I'll need to complete. And then at that point, I'll need to reflect on. And again, giving students the ability to see that first and foremost right in front of them, I think is fantastic. It's all in front of them. They know exactly what they need to do. I'm hoping that you see this as being really, really exciting. You're able to really put actionable items in front of students. And quickly just want to review that if we were to go into this personality styles assessment, because we haven't completed personality styles, as you can see here, we've done Matchmaker, but we haven't completed personality styles. I'll have to do that first. So that's one way of making sure that this is getting done, right? It's assigned to that grade level. We know they're getting it done. It's very important that you have this information, and this is how you'll be able to collect it. Just want to make sure let's just see if there's any questions. I don't think we have any. Nope. I do want to get onto the educator side to show you just quickly how to create a custom lesson, just some of the ways you can do that, and then really quickly to show you just the reports on how you'll be able to track a custom lesson completion. So now we're going to jump back onto the educator side, just going and taking a look at this. So right now in your educator's portal, right when you're logged in, you'll have the left pane here. Where we're going to take a look at is in features. So within features, you'll have lessons. So once you click the lesson bar, you'll see that you have this button here to create lesson. So that's where you can actually go ahead and create one. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So in this section here, we're going to create a lesson. We're going to create one for our new assessment skills lab. We're going to do that for the 10th grade, just as I was in as a 10th grade student. So we're going to go ahead and select 10th grade as that assigned grade level that would need to be completed in. And I'm going to name it just as the assessment would be called. We'll call it Skills Lab. In the prerequisites section here, we're able to add Skills Lab as a required activity that a student would need to do to unlock this lesson. So I'm going to click on Add Prerequisite, and you can see that there's several here that are listed. We're focusing on Skills Lab, so we're going to go and select that, and I'm going to click Add. You can go ahead and add several other prerequisites to this too, but for this specific example, I want to make sure that we're calling this custom lesson just like the assessment is and setting that as the prerequisite. You do have options to obviously add other prerequisites. There's several here in terms of clusters, experiences, volunteer hours, save skills, save interests, and a whole slew of other options. You can select how many of these instances they need to have. For those who have course planners set up, you could set up the fact that they need to have the next grade level completed of their 4-year plan in order to complete, in order to unlock this lesson, that they have plans saved, or that they met the requirements of a specialization within a diploma. So really, really neat prerequisites you can set, and you can really think of the sky's the limit in terms of different ones you could create and how this could work alongside of anything you're already doing. So we're going to, again, still just keep Skills Lab. I'm going to click Add. So at this point now I have Skills Lab added as a prerequisite. In my instructions to students, I did have, unfortunately, I think it closed, but I did have a tab open of just some instructions. So I'm just going to bring that tab up quickly because I did have it within my Michigan folder of a custom lesson I created. So I'm just going to jump into that. Apologize for it closing. I did have it open. Did have it just a little lower here. Here's my custom lesson I created for Skills Lab. So I just like to take some time and write these out before I post them, but I'm just going to copy this right here right now. Take this and add this right back into the instructions section, right? So here I'm just going to number these just quickly, just for reference. So, and just going to highlight some things as well, because I want them to make sure that they know where to check, where to look for their assessment, to look at About Me, to make sure to scroll down to Skills Lab to review their answers. And that in this case, I want them to answer the following questions in the text box. So at this point, we're ready to save this. So we can go ahead and save that. And now when we go to 10th grade, you're going to see Skills Lab is located here. So it's a brand new custom lesson they'll have to do. It's set as core, so they'll have to complete it as part of the mandatory lessons. If you chose to make it uncore, which is totally up to you, within the lesson itself, you can do so. So you can take that lesson under edit, you can actually remove its core status, which again, core just relates to the fact that it is a mandatory lesson that will have to be completed. If we were to check this back to no, this would be an optional lesson that a student could complete versus a required. We're going to keep it as required. And I'm just going to click save again to keep that in the lesson sequence. Also wanting to show you that you can change where this is done. So maybe I want it first and foremost completed. Maybe I want to change the order that it's in. So I can go ahead and do that. And this will actually reflect on the student side as well. I'm just
Matt,
going
we're
to put
looking
it.
at about 15 minutes.
Yep, no problem. Just really quick, want to show you what this will look like on the student side. Just on my student side here, I'm just going to hit refresh because we're logged in as a 10th grader. And you'll notice Skills Lab is the first lesson, just like it is in our lesson sequence. So again, you have the ability to manipulate the order. You can see right away, I know that I have to complete Skills Lab. That's my next activity, highlighting the need and the requirement. So again, just for the sake of time, I don't think there are any questions. I don't see any. I'm going to jump into reporting just to show you what the reports will look like. So just as we've created some custom lessons, we've completed some, I just want to show you what this lesson progress looks like in the reporting. So I'm going to click on lesson progress here, and we're able to see all the lesson progress for all the students within this demo account. So far we don't have any student that's fully complete all the lessons within their grade level. We have 17 that are in progress and 1,815 that haven't started. I'm going to specifically look at those lessons we've created. So we're going to look at completion by grade. And we're going to jump down to 10th grade here because I really want to make sure that you see that. So in this section here, we have all complete, right? We have in progress or not started. So this is, again, all those lessons that we have, be it our pre-made lessons or the custom lessons as well.
Matt, as you're showing this, we see that there's there's elementary grades in there as well. And I know we have some elementary counselors online that will be using the XELLO Elementary. So they will be able to do the same kind of thing. All of this is applicable to them as well.
Yeah, it actually just launched today that custom lessons and assignments are available for grades 3, 4, and 5. So that just launched today for the elementary school students. So anything you've seen today in terms of creating a custom lesson, talking about assignments, those are all possibilities. It just looks a little different in terms of the functionality, but on the student side, obviously, but on the educator side, it's exactly the same. So being able to, create the title, select the grade level it's assigned to, the prerequisite you want them to do, you're able to then also have instructions, have them completed in a text box or upload. So just like you saw in 6 to 12, grades 3, 4, and 5 can also do that.
Matt, we also have a question from Kristen, and she's asking, could we create a student group and then run reports for that group similar to these shown for grade level in that building?
100%. That's exactly what I was going to show you. So in the grade level, I'm going to go into 10th grade. We can see here all the different lessons we have, right? So we have Matchmaker, which we completed ourselves. We have Mission Complete, Personality Styles, Skills Lab, which we just created a minute ago. It's also here. So anything you create is accessible there. I want to take a look at just Matchmaker specifically, because on this specific lesson progress report, you're going to see that we have one student that's actually completed it. We don't have any in progress and 471 that haven't started, but I really want to find out who is this student that finished this. So we're going to click on Matchmaker, and here we're able to see the student that had submitted and completed our assessment and custom lesson. So Jack Albert had completed that, and he did it. Look at that, lo and behold, he did that yesterday. So I'm able to see that. If I wanted to take a look at Jack Albert's his actual custom lesson and review it, I can. But more so to answer Julie's question, I just want to show you how you can filter this as well. So in the filter section, as long as you have students assigned to yourself, you can actually pull this report based on the assignment. So I know that student, Jack Albert, we're just looking at, is assigned to me in the 10th grade. So when I click apply, this is just going to show all the students that are assigned to me. Jack Albert's one of them. So I'm able to see that he's completed it. But now I'm also able to see who hasn't. So I have quite a few students that haven't done anything yet. Of course, that's where my focus is, to get the rest of those done. And just as we talked about earlier, you can send a message to these students at this point, saying to them, hey, I see that I have one student that's completed, the custom lesson, but several others of you have not. You can do so in that send message section. So you just simply click send message. It would now send any of the students within that report this message. You'd give it a subject, the message itself. When you click send, it would appear on the student side within their dashboard, but they also receive an email notification saying that there's been a new message added in XELLO from an educator. So it's really cool to be able to action things with them through this. And this is one way of communicating with them through XELLO. Really quick, going into Jack Albert's, the fact that he's completed it. So I'm going to click on his name. I want to take a look at his lesson progress. So I can see here, right, he went in and took a look at our custom lesson, went to find out why. He looked at being a proofreader as part of his career, which is great. I can see that some of the central aspect of that career is attention to detail. Good to see. What are the central and secondary aspects? He answered, so dealing with paperwork, letters, and forms. And then, of course, the last one was, did you answer dislike or dislike very much to any of the aspects and which ones? And he put working in an office. So I could see the date that that was submitted. I could provide feedback to Jack right here. So I could say, hey, Jack, great job. Right? I could send feedback to him. So now this will be sent to him. So when he goes to take a look at that, at his custom lesson submission in Matchmaker, he'll see that I wrote, hey, Jack, great job. I can also go ahead and mark this as reviewed, right? So now within that report, when I go to pull it again, I'll see that I'd sent him feedback and that I marked this as reviewed. So really great to be able to see his progress and see that all within the tool itself. And again, we'll just go back to reports just so we can take a look at that lesson progress report and the fact that we reviewed it. So I'm going to go to completion by grade. I'm going to take a look at 10th grade again. And we're just going to look at Matchmaker here where Jack Albert was. And again, we could see that we reviewed it.
And Matt, as we are looking at this, sometimes as we're trying to create our goals for the year as counselors, it's difficult to quantify interactions or connections that we've made through students, because a lot of times that's part of what we're evaluated on. This is an opportunity for counselors to use this as a way to say, you know, this is my section of the alphabet. I've given feedback and reviewed each one of these students. My goal was 75% and I completed 85. So just a thought for counselor evaluations.
Oh, that's a great point, I think, to make. Yeah, because this really is just indicating the progress you've made with students and all the work that they've completed. So no, that's definitely true.
We're on 10 minutes, Matt.
Yep. If we don't have any questions about this, we do want to jump into the next section, which just is a workshop that Laura and I wanted to have. So we're hoping, you know, we can get this going. I think we just have just enough time, Laura, to complete this. So I don't think there are any questions just yet. If there are any, no, I don't see any. Okay, so we're just going to jump back into that presentation. And I'll apologize. I'm just going to jump ahead here, but we do have a breakout session we'd like to complete with everyone that's here today. So we just want to break up the team. I know we don't have as many educators as we had planned, but that's okay. We'll have some simple teams to put together. We've created just a few scenarios that we'd like to share with you. We just like everyone to work on within their group this scenario that they've been provided.
Matt, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Matt.
It's okay.
I'm just wondering, for sake of time, if we could just have the whole group unmuted and maybe just make this a discussion.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think we can definitely do that. I just want to make sure that we can allow everyone to talk. So I'm just going to unlock all of their microphones because right now they're all locked. So we can definitely do this as a group.
So if you're unlocked and you want to mute yourself, you know, just selectively, you can do that, you know, so mute and unmute your background when you'd like to make a comment here.
Yeah. So for this breakout, I agree, Laura, I know we have a bit of a smaller group, so it's going to be tougher to do this. So we're going to jump into the first of the breakout sessions. So I'm just going to show my screen. So what Laura and I have put together here is just a scenario where we wanted educators to just talk about how they'll be able to use lessons and specifically lesson plans with students. So in here, I'll just read it for us quickly. So of all XELLO's lessons have lesson plans. So we've just done that so you can set the stage with students to take lessons within XELLO. But of course, we need educators to help make them as engaging as possible. So you're provided with this lesson plan, which is the Discover Learning Pathways, which I'll open up as well. And what we want to do is just take a look at this lesson plan and then also think of some ways that we can get students and how can we set the stage for them. And we just wanted to record your answers here and kind of do this together, right? So we can work on this together as a group. Hoping that I can increase the screen size so you can probably read what I have here.
So basically what we're wondering is, in order to be able to make the lesson engaging, what kind of discussion or preliminary presentation would you make with students to make this particular lesson, Discover Learning Pathways, engaging? And we might need to see the lesson again, Matt.
Yes, of course. I'm trying to blow this up as well so that and just hopefully everyone can see my screen. So we're just taking a look at, again, this lesson plan. So I'm going to blow it up for us to see. So this lesson plan coincides with a lesson pre-made within XELLO, so Discovering Learning Pathways. It's recommended grade level 7th grade, and really what we're looking for here is what Laura said. So how can we set the stage for students to be able to complete this lesson, considering we also have this lesson plan, right, as a resource. So just looking for feedback from all of you on ways we could set the stage, again, for students to be ready to complete this lesson, but then also find it engaging and that they actually have big takeaways from it.
So does anyone have any ideas about what kind of initial discussion you might have with students about post-secondary options, essentially, is what this is asking?
And I'll, of course, record your answers within the template. We just wanted to set up a bit of a discussion on how this could work. And I could start first if that would help, just, take into account what the lesson is and how it is engaging and what we could do to set the stage. And really, I think having students understand all their pathways. So maybe introducing pathways to them and what they mean and what they are. Are there any other ways we could set the stage for students before taking this lesson? And of course, obviously taking into account that they have a lesson, we have a lesson plan for it as well.
I think one of the things that I've said to students in the past is, that from kindergarten through 12th grade, they've already had prescribed for them what their next step is going to be. They go from 6th grade to 7th grade, 7th grade to 8th grade, and that's already been preset. But then once they graduate high school, they have the opportunity to continue learning, but in lots of different ways, whether they go into the military, they go into a community college, they do some volunteer work. So after high school, they get to make decisions about what their next step is going to be, and then get them to share some of the different pathways they could go on after they graduate. Kristen's got her hand raised.
Yep.
So,
I don't know if, oh, sorry, go ahead.
that's okay. So my role is specific to working with teachers of students with disabilities. And I know they're supposed to start working on their transition plans at age 14. And the EDP is a great way to interface with that transition planning on the IEP. So I think when they're meeting with students and starting that 7th, 8th grade conversation and the transition plan, this would be a great place to connect why these lessons would be important. I'm not sure how they're going to get assigned in middle school levels, but I would love to have this information available when I do transition trainings for teachers to show them how this will interface very nicely with what they want to find out.
And we could definitely do a workshop or sessions, particularly around that as well, because that does sit within XELLO, and we obviously have options to allow students, especially with IEPs, to be able to use XELLO. And lessons go hand in hand with that as well. So just setting what their requirements might look like may be a little different than just a general student.
That'd be great.
Jennifer has her hand raised.
Yep.
I'm at elementary, and so one of the things that we did in our career lesson for 3rd grade to kind of introduce all that was we read aloud to the kids, I Can Be Anything, Don't Tell Me I Can't by Diane Dillon. And that kind of launched some conversation with the students.
Great.
And was that book more or less just to talk about different pathways and options that are available? Is that
Yes.
more or less? Okay.
Matt, I think for sake of time, we should probably wrap up. Unfortunately, we had a couple of other questions, and just to let you know what we were wanting to move on to, we were going to ask, as educators, what different ways you could see these lessons being utilized in classrooms. And an example of that would have been, like I had mentioned, with partnering with the business teacher and saying, okay, what class lessons do you think would be applicable to your curriculum, and then delivering it with them, or, you know, so there's different options with that. And then we were also going to discuss sharing this with parents. Is there still a share the EDP with parents? Yeah.
Yep. So there's still the share profile with on Xello's roadmap coming up for the new year, like in 2021. There is a parent portal we're developing. Just with this in mind, right? Being able to share, having parents comment, because we know how important it is, right, for student success to be able to have parent involvement. So that parent portal is something I'm really excited about, and that will help facilitate those conversations.
Yep. And then, so prior to that, even just sending, I know some districts have sent an email home to parents, or some districts have a counselor corner newsletter. They could highlight the lessons that they've done with each grade level up at that time, through their newsletters or through email to parents to say, today we talked about learning pathways. So at home tonight, when you have, you know, time to talk with your student, maybe you share a little bit about what your learning pathway was, or, you know, kind of some conversation starters for parents at home. So sorry to put the pedal to the metal on this session.
It's okay.
We really try to figure out ways to try to be interactive, but we also know that you need to see the different material, and, you know, Matt does a nice job of switching back and forth between the educator portal and the student portal so that you're aware of what it looks like on each side. Hopefully you'll see the lessons as a useful tool for you, whether it's in your classroom or as a support to your counseling program. And especially if we're online at some point, I could see that this could be a great way to continue interaction with students. So
yes, definitely. I know we're right at time, so thanks, Laura. I don't know if there's any questions from the group, because I know some had to take off right at 2. So
thank you everyone for coming today. We really appreciate your engagement. Remember to fill out the survey so that we can make sure that we give you the credits for your attendance. And then also, please tune in with us next week on Tuesday at 10 a.m. We're going to be going over session 3, which is understanding dashboard resources and how to upload local scholarship information. And if it's not applicable to you, it may be to somebody in your office or at a higher grade level, and let them know that as well. And we'll just keep trying to give you as much training as we can. So thanks again, everybody.
Yeah,
and
thanks.
Thanks, Matt, and enjoy your day.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Bye for now.